I guess we trust the education system and the process of the teachers and the schools and everything to do with it is going to help kids become the people who they're going to be and change the world and make it a better place. Sadly, a heck of a lot of people think otherwise when they look back on their school years. And a lot of people say at the very end of it, there are some tests and some examinations and there are some modified things, and everything revolves around how well I can remember the stuff I'm supposed to remember, and I don't want to know it, but I just need to remember it. So where does that go? Well, we clearly need teachers. But what we really need is we need inspirers. We need people who are going to get kids to the level at which they want to find out and they want to know this stuff and challenge the thinking. Actually, I think I should call them inspirators. Like a conspirator, but it's for inspiration. So where can we go? Well, we can test whether kids have done a lot and really learned, because when they go home, they burst to tell what they learned. And I don't know how many of you here remember the time when you were at school and you came home and your parents might have said, "What did you learn?" and they're blah, 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 forever. Other times, when your parents say, "What did you learn?" you go, "Nothing." "You going to go to school tomorrow?" "I've got to." "What do you think you'll learn there?" "Probably same again, nothing." And so there is something strange about that. Even more strange, in some schools, we call people underachievers. I don't know how you underachieve. And worse is, how do you overachieve? Can you believe that you can say to somebody, "You're an overachiever"? "Oh, well, I better just mess everything up then and just get things wrong." So I thought, well, is it possible for somebody who's not an educator, who's not a teacher, to see if I can make some sort of difference into this world which is very, very, very established? So the first thing is, what are the expectations? So my naivety thought that if I went into schools and if I gave some talks and I tried to motivate kids to want to learn, I could then go back to my daily life feeling I've helped and I've done a lot. I was wrong. The fact is, one can bring kids up to a level of motivation and inspiration, but it doesn't last very long. It's like that marvelous moment. Some people actually have that when they join self-help groups and they go along and they get motivated up, and then it gradually goes down. And they go back to another self-help and it gradually goes down. And what we need is we need to get kids into the position, young people in the position where it stays with them all the time. So I thought, okay, I know a lot of people. What I'll do is I'll take a small group of students, boardrooms, that sort of thing, hold about 12, 15 people. So I'll take 12 students and we'll go to meet some amazing people, and then magic will rub off. I was wrong. Because when you take some students to meet some amazing people, they have a construct which is constrained by everything which they've done at school. And what happens in school is that they get desks which they sit behind, and somewhere over there is a teacher, an inspirer, an inspirator who is leading what they're supposed to do. So when they go off to really great people, they tend to follow the same process. And they were sitting there, and the adult is expected to just deliver magic. And a lot of adults don't know how to deliver magic. You know, I know how to set up a business, I know how to do all sorts of stuff, but I don't know how to inspire a group of students who are sitting there. You better be bloody good. So how can I do that? And I went back and I reconsidered. And I thought, well, part of that problem is the whole way that the construct of education, with its hierarchy of who sits where and who's in charge and who's not, need to stretch it. So I thought, okay, no classroom. I'll go into a school, we'll go into school, and I'll move the chairs around, and so we'll move them into a circle so everybody can see. And actually, if I want kids to develop the skill set in being able to really interview somebody, to really find out what they can do, maybe I should get the school principal to sit in the middle, and the students can ask any question about anything, including, do you like us? Why did you become a principal? And often those students have only ever met the principal when they've been in trouble. And similarly, the principals only ever met the students when the principal's trying to say something horrible to them. So principals say, oh, and if I can do that, they ask me anything. I go, yes. And the kids get, great, I can get my own back. But in practice, what takes place is the moderation which happens, and something great takes place. And it's all sorts of people who do it, and every principal has come out of this saying, finally, I understand these kids, which I didn't know before. Because hitherto, the only ones I've really spoken to are the ones who have had to go and see the principal. And so they've adopted the policy of, I've got to go and see the principal. And so they know they're going to be in for a hard time. And so when the principal says, how's life? He goes, great. What do you think of this school? Fantastic. But afterwards, they go, I had to see that bloody principal again. So I thought, well, let's find out really what students want and what their interests are. So I set up a small diary room, just an iPad in a little quiet space, with a few things for students to answer, and individually they talk to camera. Because if you ask them what they want to do as a group, they sort of end up by saying the same sort of thing. I don't know if anybody here has ever been in a focus group, and you find when somebody says, I think that's rubbish, somebody else says, I think it's good. And then gradually, everybody thinks it's good. Does it make sense? So then, I said, well, we know the boardroom's about this size, so let's get a coach and a little thing, and we'll take a group of students and we'll go off and meet some interesting people. And they can use those same techniques about asking anything, and just let's see what happens. And so we might go to a major city law firm and then go off and go to a TV production company and then have lunch. And say to the restaurateur, how did you set up? What's it all about? How do you make things work? And then go off to see a startup, and then maybe go and see an advertising agency. Interestingly, when I ask organizations, are you prepared to spend an hour with students with no agenda if I bring them in a coach to see you and we'll stay there for exactly 1 hour? About 800 people have agreed to do that. So it's a process of who should we go and see. There's a bit of logistics in what order should we go. But if I didn't know what the students are interested in, I might not quite get it right. So the diary room becomes critically important. And then amazingly, magic happens as they go back and they start bursting to tell. So I thought, that's pretty good. But then you go back, maybe a month later, and you realize it has also dropped a little bit. And I realize there's more to it than that, So we might do this stuff about how do you talk to people, and we might do this stuff about where do you really want to go, and students find it very cathartic, and they quite often want other people to go and they interview each other to find out about them. And we have to do a bit of training around that and how to ask the difficult questions. And then they've gone off to meet pretty interesting people, but it's still in the school environment. And when they get back, it doesn't necessarily hit here. So after working with about 1,000 students in 50 different schools, I thought we have to make even more. And then magic happened to me because I had a stroke, and so I found myself in hospital, not being able to talk properly and not being able to see. But the journey was that hospital was all about making me better, but it wasn't about necessarily trying to overachieve. And the startup community does a lot of work in terms of elevator pitches. I thought, well, the purpose of an elevator pitch is to get something happening, to implement something. So let's do that with students. So 5 people is quite good to go and visit because there's no right or wrong answer. So I'll increase that to 6 or 7. So maybe I can find 7 business leaders or just leaders, ideally who've got or doing things which the students are interested in, because I know what they're interested in because we've seen their diary rooms and we've got to meet them. And if I can persuade people to come into a school for 2.5 hours, as long as they're fairly local, which means as those kids go home or whatever, they go past those same people, so that'll reinforce it. That might work. Do you know, everybody I've asked has said, of course. 2.5 hours, what do I have to do? Just be yourself. Do I have to present anything? No. The kids will ask you everything. It's up to you. And if you want to do a deal, it's a real deal. If you want to say to a student, yeah, come by. Come and see what we get up to. I've got some contacts who might be able to help. But if you agree, then it's real. But if they don't ask, they don't get. Did a little bit of work with students on how to do an elevator pitch. How would you present yourself to somebody in a short space of time and see how could they help you in your journey to become the person you might be able to be? And off we went. So 3 minutes, then the next person 3 minutes, then the next person 3 minutes. And the first time is usually a bit rubbish. I don't know what to say. Second time, a little bit better, but still a bit rubbish. Third time, getting better. Fourth, fifth, and sixth time, amazing. Seventh time, magic happens. And then it's pretty easy, because then all we have to do is pull everybody together and see, well, what deals have been done, what deals could have been done but didn't, what contacts can be exploited, and start sharing information. So if students are young, then we have to protect them from bad people. Of course, we're not going to invite any bad people in, but we don't allow them to exchange email addresses. If they're over 16, they can, but if they're under 16, they have to go through the school, just to make sure everybody knows what's going on. And magic has happened. Some students in 3.5, 4 minutes with people have done deals. There's one girl who, at the restaurateur, knew somebody who knew somebody. So that same girl did the same technique in this elevator pitch, and she got voice coaching from the voice coach of a very famous singer, which would never have happened if she hadn't asked. And at school, people have said, well, you can't do that. And we realized that actually a lot of teachers limit their abilities by what they know rather than what they think can happen. So when teachers can make the move and become inspirators and really start challenging everything which is currently done, they might free themselves up from the awful chains which they're in of curriculum and time management. And because the world is moving so fast, there's no way that teachers are going to be able to keep up. So we have to flip it. It has to be that the students themselves are eager pullers of information, challenging the teachers, without the teachers having to teach them. And then the teachers can coach them, can guide them, can say, how about this? And kids might say, I think I'm doing this, but I don't know if it'll work. What do you think? Instead of sitting there being taught stuff which they don't know why they need to learn it. And if you don't know why you need to learn it, you tend not to learn it very well. You can pass the test. And I bet we all know some people who have done pretty well at school, and when you meet them, you think, how did an idiot like you end up by doing well? But at the same time, we probably know some amazing people who didn't do well. Might be the people sitting here. So wouldn't it be great if we can free up the constraints, free up the chains, and start integrating the preparation for taking part in the world outside with the world outside, and allow children, students, to be the conduit. And then maybe these children and their parents and carers will see this as not the classroom, but as the portal, as the gateway to an amazing world of opportunity. And maybe, just maybe, the memories of school will be that's when I discovered who I am. That's what set me on the journey. And maybe we, collectively, can make a change to what seems to be impossible to change. Thank you very much.